Cute.
Do you want to know what's going round? See what's the talk of the town on Real Talk on the radio today.
And welcome to Real Talk Radio. We're live on WKDW.com and we're live streaming from beautiful Northport, Florida. I have a very special guest in the house, Mr. Devon. I am always going to mess up your last name. Poulos?
Poulos.
Oh, Poulos. I almost did that one too. But I know that you've got a really good friend of mine in the room with you there, Mr. Jason Barlone, from the great communication team of Northport, Florida. So make sure you tell him hi, and I'm glad he's in the room with you. And as always, it's a pleasure to talk with you and for him to listen in. If you can adjust your screen just a little bit so your face is there, you perfect. So we've got a huge month coming up for the Aquatic Center. Can you kind of give an overview of the Aquatic Center in its current state today and how it's going to transition through May?
Yeah, so the Aquatic Center, we are fully open now. Just want to point out that the damages that were occurred during Hurricane Ian, we are 100% completed with all of those. So all of our shade structures are back, fences are back up, and more importantly, our scoreboard is ready for the upcoming Northport High School Bobcat swim season. So we're excited to have them back to hosting meets here with us. As we enter in May, May is Drowning Prevention Month. This is national there. Our commission, again this year, as well as since we've been open since 2019, has proclaimed May as Drowning Prevention Month here in Northport. And really what our focus is we want everybody to be safe in, on, and around the water. And it's important we talk about in, on, and around the water because everybody thinks, drowning is just the water component, but it's actually what happens leading up to that water that's even more important there. So on May 10th, it's called our May Day Drowning Expo. It's from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's going to be at the Northport Aquatic Center. If you are a Northport resident, it is completely free for you to come to that day. If you don't live in Northport, we still want you to come enjoy the facility for the admission fees. We'll go over later. But we're going to have different vendors there, Northport Fire Rescue, Northport Police, the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary. We're going to have Suncoast Credit Union there. We're going to have the Kiwanis Club there. We're going to have Josh the Otter there from the Rotary Club. And our goal with that day is to give people water safety education to understand how all of these pieces play into each other and why it's important to keep our community safe so we don't have any unintentional drownings occur here within Northport. So we're going to be talking about our swimming lessons. We're going to have some lifeguard demonstrations. And it's just all around a good event. We've done this event now for at least 4 years now. And we always have really great attendance. Everybody enjoys it. So we're really looking forward to it this year.
Fantastic. Drowning, it is a tough conversation to have. But you're also trying to be engaging with the community as you ask these questions or do the education side of it. Yep. Can we kind of walk through the drowning is silent part of this PDF that you have showing, which is also available on the website so that people can really, if they need to get this in front of even their kids, they can join in with their kids in a good conversation, right?
Yeah. And just like you said there, John, nobody wants to talk about drowning, but it's an important conversation to have. We need to be talking about it. Our numbers are continuing to go up in the state, and we'll kind of cover those in a little bit here. But to your point there, 80% of drownings, there is absolutely no sound whatsoever to those drownings. That's a large percentage. And the reason being, as on the PDF we have here on the document, when you're looking at those signs of distress and you're beginning to get into the drowning, you got, you're trying to climb a ladder. It kind of looks like your body's going up and down vertically. You really can't wave for help because you're just trying to swim with those arms. You can't call for help because your mouth's going underneath the water there. And really, if you're not catching those signs when they're distressed or when we're looking at them, distressed, active, and then passive, you're going to miss a lot of it there. So it's important when we talk about, and this is one of the things on May 10th we're going to talk about, is you have to have what's called a water watcher. All their job is to do is watch the water. They're not turning around. They're not engaging in conversations. They're not watching their phone. Your job is watching the water. Now at the Aquatic Center, we're fortunate. We have the best water watchers around. We have lifeguards, but we still need parents to play an important component within there. Is lifeguards are still humans as well. So all those eyes that we can have on the water all contribute to safety there. But a kid doesn't go from 0 to drowning right away. This is a progressive step. So one of the things we see at the aquatic center all the time, and parents, some of them are happy with it. Some of them, want to kind of talk to us a little bit more, is diving board. You get a kid who's 6, 7, 8, good enough to jump off the diving board, but they're doing it 50 times in a row. Well, about time number 45, their fast swim now becomes a slow swim. That's when you need to recognize those signs as, hey, you were just getting to the wall in 10 seconds. Now it's taking you 20 seconds. Let's have a conversation. Maybe it's time to take a rest. That's kind of some of those things that our staff are looking for there when we're protecting the water there. And it's important that people know those items.
It leads into a lot of different things when you do address this issue from start to finish. So you've got a lot of things that a parent or a caregiver of children or even older adults who are there at the surrounding area, before they get into the pool, they should know certain things. Can you kind of walk us through what a caregiver or a parent or grandparent should be aware of as they first enter in, and kind of walk the safety side of things?
Absolutely. So when we talk about drowning, the first sentence out of any aquatics professional's mouth is drowning is preventable. And that goes to exactly what you're saying there. It is 100% preventable. So when you're talking to your kids, and I got 3 young ones at home myself, is we want to tell them water's fun, but it can also be dangerous. We want to make sure that we're within arm's reach of our children at all points in time. When they get to the age of being able to take swimming lessons, we want to encourage them to take swimming lessons. Don't enter the water without a parent, making sure your PFD, your personal flotation device, or life jacket, if they're wearing them, are worn properly. If they need to wear one, they're wearing one. A lot of kids want to fight us on those items because they're not comfortable. Well, they're there to help you there, for that. It's also, before we even get to the water, you're talking about, we talked about the swimming lessons. You're talking about putting alarms, fences, once again, barriers. Are you swimming at a pool that has a lifeguard or not? Watching the water. Never leaving a child alone there is super important. And then once again, within arm's reach of your child in the water is super important there. But there's a lot of this items when we're talking about drowning is preventable, is we really need to get back down to the baseline of, let's respect the water. We need to have we all love the water. We're water capital there. We recreate all around the water, but it's important that we respect it and we understand that it is dangerous. What we talk about with parents at swimming lessons is, you're going to a park. Let's say there's a canal right behind the park. Your child is not expected to go into the water, but it's important that they understand that there's water there and what to do if their ball goes in the water. It's not an immediate, they jump in and grab it. Hey, go get a parent to go get the ball, or whatever the case. So we have those conversations with them just to open their eyes. And just like we talk with kids, there's consequences for our actions. And when we're talking about drowning, there's, sometimes the consequences can be ultimately very negative. But not every drowning means that it's a fatal drowning. When we talk about numbers that the state reports, those are fatal drownings. But, a kid that's in the stage like that young lady is on the top of the graphic there, she is drowning. She is actively drowning, even though she gets rescued or saved. So, drowning does have that, once again, that progressive steps, as we talked about earlier.
And we've got we've got a lot of miles of canals. I think we're at 80 miles of canals here in Northport. And that being said, we have some real concerns with that because they're not governed by lifeguards. And there are a lot of kids that tend to want to jump off the bridges and do some things that I'll dare say, and if my mom is listening, she's found out over the last 61 years that I may have done some things that she never knew about. We still have that going on today, don't we?
Yeah, I'm sure it is going on there, and it's important that once again, as we are talking about, there's you know kids perceive things a little bit differently than as adults. We're looking at things with a lot more risk management in mind. We're okay, this is a little bit scary for a 12-year-old jumping off a bridge. It may not be scary, but they need to understand the inherent risk that they're running when they do those items. If you jump off and hit a rock, do you have a buddy there that can call for help? Is it really the safest thing to do? So absolutely, I mean, we have to respect the water and respect the canals there. We all want kids to have fun, but that's why we built a nice aquatic center with diving boards off of it. If you want to come jump off something, we have 12 and a half feet of water, crystal clear, no rocks in it, no alligators, no snakes, and it's open every day in the summer.
Yeah. Now, so we talked about the leading into the water, and that's a great thing. In the water, if you can talk about the dangers there and incorporate the lifeguards in and what they're watching for and what their job is.
Yeah. So we'll start with the lifeguards there. We'll unpack it that way. So lifeguards, their job number one is to scan the water systematically, and their safety of patrons on the pool deck. That's number one. They have no other job other than that. That even goes to rule enforcement. I would argue as an aquatics manager, rule enforcement is number two to scanning the water. If they catch somebody running across the pool deck, they're going to quickly address it, but they're going to be watching the water still as they're going there. Lifeguards, they spend, it's 21 hours in the lifeguard class, and they have an additional 6 hours of online curriculum. So it ends up coming out to, it's about 28-hour class there. On top of that, they have to go through 4 hours of in-service training every month. Now, that is recommended by the Red Cross. Here at the Northport Aquatic Center, or the aquatics division, because I also oversee Warm Mineral Springs as well, 4 hours is a minimum. So if they don't meet the 4 hours of training, they get taken off the schedule until they can make up that training, because we've set the standard higher than just being average. We want to be above average from there. You'll notice our lifeguards rotate systematically. They're constantly always watching the water, but they're scanning the bottom, the middle, and the top constantly all day long, making sure that patrons are safe in the water. Now, things we're looking for, as I talked about earlier, is that going from horizontal to slowly making that vertical motion and kind of staying in place. We're also looking for a limited forward progression. So, you could be swimming like this, but you're going really slow. That's going to catch, it's okay. Hey, we might have something going on. They may not jump in yet because they're assessing the situation. They're now going to, taking a second look and forming an opinion. Doggy paddling is another one that is not swimming. This right here looks like struggling at the surface. So we're looking for those items. Grabbing onto lane lines, especially in young children, do that a lot. Those things catch our eye there. Kids wearing life jackets slowly making their way into deeper water. Now, we're fortunate at the aquatic center that our lane lines and the way we divide our pool keeps everybody in the shallow end there. But there's just so many different signs that we're looking for. Extended breath holding in the water. We don't allow that. Jumping in, like I talked about, looking for them getting restless when they're jumping off the diving boards. All those are indicators to us that we could potentially have a problem.
You talked about some of the over educational side of things that you guys insist upon, not just trying to maintain the standard, so to speak. I know, because I've spoken with other parts of our government. We are, whether it's police department, fire department, public works, the focus is to be a separation from other communities as we progress. Parks and Rec is another one, because we hit standards and we get certifications, and we really are focused in on that. How is our aquatic center set up right now? And can you give us an overview as we bounce into the next phase, which is outside the pool after an event? So I just kind of address that real quick before then.
Yeah. So our aquatic center, and not just saying this because I work there, we're top notch. I mean, it's a top notch operation. Our pool equipment, We have UV systems on all of our pools, which is above the state minimum. There, the water's the clean there. We were the first one to introduce the Float for Life program in the whole entire state of Florida at our program. We're very fortunate. I have an instructor trainer certification for lifeguards. My assistant manager has a water safety instructor trainer. I just taught a class last week. Speaking of the standards that we have, I had 2 people drive from Orlando and 1 from Palm Beach County to take a 2.5-day course here at our facility, staying in a local hotel, things like that, because there's not many in the state that have that. Maybe 4 of us in the state have that certification. Another thing we do at the Aquatic Center, 2 times during season, we have an auditor come in, an independent secret shopper. The first time they come to the facility, I know what day they're coming. I don't tell my staff, but I know what day they're coming. The second time, no one in the facility knows what day they're coming, including myself. And they compile a report, and it lets us know, what are we doing? When management is not right there behind you, are the lifeguards still performing and everything? And we're always either meeting or exceeding those standards there. So the Aquatic Center right now is open, the full Aquatic Center weekends until May 30th. And then we're open 7 days a week. The pool is very busy right now. We have the 2nd grade swim program right now at our pool. So it's very busy during the day. And we do have a lot of our senior population that comes out to take our water aerobics and our classes there. But it's set up mainly for lap swimming right now. As we're supporting that, we have a swim team, which is phenomenal in the morning. We have a coach, Coach Alex, Torpedo Swim School. He's found an amazing niche here in the community. He has a lot of Ukrainian and Russian. He's fluent on the swim team, which is amazing to see 30 to 40 Russian and Ukrainian families participating. Once again, that equal access to something there. We have a swim team that comes in the evening, the Sea Dragons from Port Charlotte, that's been with us now for 2 years, that they have a nice swim team. We support Northport High School. So I agree 100% with you, is we're always looking to be better. And really that's because our wonderful citizens here in Northport, and I genuinely mean this, they want to have a top-notch government. They want to make sure that, I take the tax dollars that I'm entrusted with very seriously, and I want to give them the best facility that I can give with the tax dollars that we're provided to operate the facility there. And I also, I've said this before on your show, I live here in Northport as well. So not only am I an employee of the city, but I'm also a resident. So when we talk about those taxpayers, when people come to the facility, I can relate because I am a taxpayer. I own a home here. So I want to be proud of the Northport Aquatic Center. And we have one of the nicest facilities in this area.
We do. And there's, I say this a lot to people because I've had people come up to me in the public and talk super nice about the live streaming and the information that we're providing. And I have others that say, you're just a pro city guy. Okay. It's really easy to be a pro city guy when we're striving for excellence. I could be that same person that tried to tear it down. When you're tearing something down, it's really not getting a good vision of what you guys are all committed of doing. And that being said, it's even easier to take the approach of what are we doing correctly, and how are we affecting our community. And I want to slide into the back end of what happens after you're in the pool, something occurs, or in water somewhere face down and something occurs. I want to go into the rescue side of things. And we talked about the education, but I want you at this point, not just to link it with lifeguards, but also people who go swimming with other kids, other adults, incorporate all those meaningful moments into what you're going to talk about there.
Yeah. So when we're performing a rescue at the Aquatic Center, things get hectic pretty quickly, and it can be scary for people. So if you're traveling with small kids, if you're traveling with others, what we recommend is no more than 2 non-swimmers per each adult. You have two hands, you can keep one hand on each one of them there. If you're traveling with a large group, you need to make sure you have enough adults there to help with that support there. So if we have somebody who is beginning to become a distress swimmer and now they've become passive. So when we talk about distress, they're still moving. Active is where they're flailing around in the pool. Distress swimmer, or excuse me, passive swimmer is where they're face down or face up and there's no obvious movement coming from them. So let's talk about an active drowning. This happens all the time in the dive well. We get kids that jump off the diving boards and they just don't realize it's 12 and a half feet and they can swim, but they get that panic moment. The lifeguard's going to blow their whistle twice, which is what activates our EAP, which for those that are not in the world, that's the emergency action plan. So the two whistles, the lifeguard's going to enter the water. There is a specific way. There's actually 3 ways our lifeguards can enter the water. They can either slide in, they can stride in, or they can compact jump into the water. Most people see our lifeguards do the compact jump, which is a modified cannonball into the water. They're going to approach the guest there, or what we call with the Red Cross, the drowning person, with either from the rear or the front, depending on how the person's oriented. And we're going to, if we're approaching from the rear, we're going to have the tube in between us and the person, and we're going to put our arms underneath their armpits and scoop them that way. Then we're going to immediately talk to them. Hey, I'm Devon. I'm a lifeguard. I'm here to help you, because people don't know what just grabbed them, who just grabbed them. If we're approaching for the front, this one looks a little bit more rough for people. We're going to extend our arms fully out with the tube, and we're going to take that tube and drive it into the person to keep them going. Because when you're approaching somebody and they're facing you, you now have the opportunity for them to jump on you, and you do not want that to happen. So you're going to continue pushing them with that tube all the way back to the wall, continuing to talk to them. Hey, Susie, calm down. I'm a Devon. I'm a lifeguard. I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you. We're going to get them to the wall, and then we're going to document and give further care for that. Those are pretty easy. We button those up within 5 minutes. Most people don't know those situations are going on. Now, when we're talking about a passive individual, you could be passive for 2 reasons. You could be drowning. You could have had a spinal situation, meaning a head, neck, or back injury. And with those, depending on if it's a head, neck, or spine, or just passive, we're still going to use the backboard, but it depends on how fast we're going to get you out. So if you're not breathing, no obvious signs of life, we're going to put you on the backboard and immediately get you out the water. If we roll you over, or if you're face up and you go, ow, my neck, we're going to take our time with getting you out the water, because you're still able to talk to us, respond to us, items like that there. That's going to result in a body of water being cleared, which this is where the controlled, and I say controlled because we have control of the scene the entire time, the controlled chaos begins, because now you have people who are needing to get out of the water, gather your belongings, move to the other side as we're getting 911 involved. And this is all happening at the same time. So as soon as those 2 whistles go out, emergency backup coverage is already happening from another lifeguard. That lifeguard's on the radio calling out the manager on duty. Manager on duty is arriving with the trauma bag to further assist with the scene. And then we can begin to kind of peel it back like an onion. Do we need to have this many people at the scene? Can we open back up a body of water? What can happen there? And we begin to unpack that situation. But it's a very emotional scene. And it's not only emotional for the person experiencing this, but it's their family members, it's the lifeguards. I mean, ultimately, it's our job to do that. Ultimately, we hope we never have to do that, because if we're catching everything when we're supposed to, then you don't get to that point there. It doesn't escalate to that. Normally, you catch it early on in that sequence.
I've got 27 years medical under my belt, and have given CPR in a hospital environment. When a code blue is going off, there's no panic, because it's organized, it's controlled. It's not practiced. It is practiced. Yep. Trust me, it's practiced. And people who join those teams don't join just to be put on them, because they're part of a process that grows them as an educational base into performing under crisis.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about how you guys deal with that? Because when people look at that, they may see high activity, but
Yep.
I promise you, when I say it,
Yep.
it's adrenaline at the highest
Yep.
level with extreme focus on outcome.
Absolutely. So, just recently at one of our facilities, we did have somebody have a medical event unrelated to drowning at one of our facilities there. And you're exactly right. We train and we train and we train. So it becomes a second part of the extension. Like you said, the adrenaline's kicking in, but you're right there. We also train to not have specific roles. Everybody's interchangeable. So when a scene's going on, you may show up and, John's on the scene doing compressions and you've been doing it for 6 minutes. I can come up on you and say, hey, John, on the next set, we're going to rotate off and, from there. And then exactly what your next step is, whether it's getting the BVM, the bag valve mask, whether it's getting the AED hooked up, whether it's verifying. So you're exactly right. And once again, I'm not saying this. I'm a 100% honest person, truthful, and saying this as your city's aquatics manager. We have the best of the best staff in the business. I'd put my staff up amongst any pool in this country. My leadership team is remarkable. We've had some very serious emergencies at War Mineral Springs. The team has handled them great. We actually had two of my lifeguards recognized by the American Red Cross for resuscitating someone successfully and got the National Life Saving Award for being a lifeguard. So you're exactly right. It becomes a part of you. And we do this job because we want to help people. And like you said, nobody joins the team to say, hey, I can't wait for my next code blue. But I know walking into that facility every day that if a code blue, if a cardiac situation happened, we have the best team on site. When we first opened the aquatic center, Trish Sturgis, who's now our assistant director for our department, we actually had a doctor have a heart attack and then go into cardiac arrest on our pool deck. And he came back and he's like, wow, you guys were on it. This was fantastic. And we have an outstanding relationship with our Northport Fire Rescue. We train at minimum with them one time a year, just so we become familiar. So we know how to get that patient ready to be transported by Northport Fire Rescue. Northport Fire Rescue does a fantastic job transporting people, getting them in ambulance, getting them to the hospital.
Yep.
We are the initial ones that are doing the water rescue. So when they talk about first responders, we're first responding to the patient in the water, and we have to provide that first step level of care. And we want to make sure when we're turning them over to Northport Fire Rescue that we understand their expectations and they understand our training. And Chief Walbers, Chief Ingalls, fantastic group over there that we've done training with over the years. Chief Gorski, who just retired, we've worked with them huge amounts. And it's been so beneficial in these scenarios because as we're talking about, when one of the fire crews show up, we already know them. So it's like, hey, this is just like training. Let's go ahead and do that. And you'll hear me say to the team all the time, we practice like we're playing. Practice like we're playing. This is every day.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, we're about 33 minutes in, almost 34 into the hour or 55 minutes. And at this point, I would like to recommend, and I know that you're going to shake your head up and down with this, that anyone that's out there that has kids or anyone that swims or gets near water, this is from start to finish. At this point, this is a great video to share with your kids before dinner, before lunch on a Saturday, breakfast, whatever you need to get them involved in this conversation. Because what this does is it also takes fear factors away.
Absolutely.
The fear of what happens, the fear of, oh my gosh, I saw it, the understanding of all the processes. And we really didn't have a plan to address this. We kind of go at this ready, set, go. When we
and most Northport families with the second grade swim there, we've had just about 715 second grade kids come through. My son's excited. He's coming through Toledo Blade in the next couple weeks there. But, we our job with those second graders is, this is where they kind of get where they start mouthing off to their parents. And we like it a little bit because we can give them some information to say, hey, go talk to mom and dad at the dinner table about not leaving you in the bathtub by yourself. Go talk to mom and dad and give a little bit of some challenge to that. But, what an awesome opportunity that we have every single year due to a donor in Sarasota County that pays for every second grader to take swimming lessons, to have that education piece, like you're saying, and we bring them through that. They get to see that, and it gives me goosebumps. I was just talking to a school today. When you get those kids that show up on day 1 and won't put their toe in the water, and by day 5 they're swimming 6, 7, 8 yards, and that was in 5 days of swim class. Imagine if their parents signed them up for 2 sessions of swimming lessons, 3 sessions. We can prevent this, and I think it's getting those parents educated. We give each parent during our swimming class a nugget of information to take home that night. Hey, we just had your kid in the water for 30 minutes. This is the component we want you to work on there. And let's face it, John, in today's reality, parents are busier than ever before. I mean,
Yep.
Parents working 2, 3, 4 jobs, and it's tough to get that. So we want to make it easier. We want to make it accessible. We have morning classes. We have evening classes. We have one-on-one classes. The May Day event, making it free to Northport residents. There is no reason, and I will say this boldly, there is no reason that any resident who has never been to the Aquatic Center shouldn't stop by on May 10th. It's free for you to get in. There's vendors. Come check it out. We're going to have the pump room open, so you're going to be able to see some of the inner workings there. We'll have tours going on. This is your opportunity to see how this is so much more than a water park. It's great we have a lazy river. Great we have a slide tower. This is honestly an integration into public safety. I have 35 first responders within the division all year round. In the summertime, that number jumps to 130 with the amount of seasonal staff we have to open up the Aquatic Center. And these are highly trained, highly dedicated, highly committed individuals. Oh, and by the way, out of the seasonal staff, those are 85 to 90 Northport High students that get employed every year with life-saving certification that they get to take with them and go off to college with, and items like that there. So it's honestly remarkable. You and I've done this, we've talked about this for several years now, and we're not seeing the same community pieces that we were seeing when we first opened the Aquatic Center, where people, the Aquatic Center. We're hearing some of that now, but I think a lot of people have seen and through, especially with our city leadership here, with the performance metrics that we put out every single month there, it's important that people see that this is so much more than just a water park. And it's starting to show that as we have over 700 regular community members that come through swimming lessons every year. The numbers are just amazing.
Well, I'm glad you guys take the approach you take back to the community, because it's whether it's a good or bad or in between comment. I've never seen anyone not handle it professionally. And when you're doing that, and I got to tell you, that's also why I gravitate towards wrapping my arms around what we're doing here as a city, completely, whether it be through leadership, whether it be through individual department heads, straight down to the department workers and staff that are, part of an essential piece of our city. The kids in our town are blessed to at least have what we have, the great park system, and also the Aquatic Center. And it's like you said, though, it's all integrated. And we also have Warm Mineral Springs that's out there that is really going to go through some transition, and it's going to become a lot better. And people should wrap their arms around that too, because just because you have never gone, that doesn't mean you shouldn't go. It just means you should go and check it out. It's a couple hours I gotta tell you, going to see Warm Mineral Springs right now, so that you have a flavor of what it's going to be later, is a great idea. Get some before and after pictures and watch the transformation all by yourself and engage in it. Um,
Absolutely.
the engaging part um, with the community has been essential because with the second year program or second grade program, I'm sorry, and that being said, I'm going to highlight again real quick. What is the number one killer for age 1 to 4?
Unintentional drowning.
Yeah. So this isn't something that all the parents needs to hear. Um, let's let's make that number a lot larger. Of instead of 1 in 4, how about 1 in 100? The
Yeah.
harder we work at the success of what you're trying to drive through with the funding and special attention to Drowning Month. I also want you to
And like
highlight
yep.
that it's just not a month for you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, no. This is all year for us. We're just fortunate that, from May 1st through May 31st, we get the opportunity to really highlight those items. But this is a way of life. I have the numbers. So the way the Department of Children and Families through the the Florida Health Department reports the numbers is I have year 2023. They're still compiling
Sure.
2024. From in 2023 for people ages 0 to 18, we lost 108 people in the state of Florida. That's the highest number of 0 to 18 since 2006. Out of those 108, 74 of those were kids 4 years or younger. So we're still seeing that large chunk there. Now, when we talk about total numbers, this is 0 to 999. We lost 465 people in total in Florida to drowning. These numbers are only continuing to go up, and this is why Drowning Prevention Month. This is why all the other months, the other 11 months out the year, we're still talking about swimming lessons. Is who doesn't want to be in Florida? It's sunny, beautiful, weather's nice, everybody's moving here, but there's risk, for that. And there's water and there's things that people aren't used to. And there's beaches and there's rip current. A couple weekends ago, there was a rip current warning all the way from Tampa down to Fort Myers. The whole coast had rip currents, and they were saying, do not get in the water regardless of your swim level. That's a huge, people don't issue those items just because. So it's important, but you're exactly right. All year round, you're going to see us. We're out in the schools. We're out giving presentations. We're teaching CPR classes. We have a phenomenal babysitter program where we actually certify people to be babysitters. We have a junior lifeguard camp. We're doing a little bit different this year where kids 11 to 14 can actually come for a week long, basically a summer camp. 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and they're going to work alongside our lifeguards and learn what it is to be a lifeguard, to kind of try to gauge those items and those components, and it works together. I tell people all the time at the high school, you're looking into the healthcare field, you're looking into the public safety field, start as a lifeguard, see if this is really what it's about there. And like you were touching on there, it's so important that we try to bring this number down. Right now in a youth category, we are number 4 out of 50 states for the number of drownings that occur. And then for adults, we're number 5. What we're actually starting to see, and I think I said this about a year ago on the show, is we're actually starting to see the youth and the adult numbers. Adults are actually starting to kind of outpace the youth right now, which is something different than what we saw. So, how do we combat this? You got to offer swimming lessons. Our commission has been so supportive of the swimming lessons being a reasonable rate to charge, because you want to give people access to take a class to learn a life-saving skill. And it all is intertwined within the community. If we can get somebody in for a $50 swimming lesson for 6 classes, but now we're not going to have drownings occurring. Now we're not putting more burden on the fire rescue, police, parents, the community as a whole, as we're dealing with this tragedy. There's so many inner workings there, but it's so super important to have that equitable access. And that second grade program allows us to, once again, spark the interest for those kids. They go home and they tell their mom, "Oh my God, I was at the aquatic center. It was so awesome. And, the swimming and Mr. Jesse told me to blow bubbles and I wasn't even scared, Mom, about blowing bubbles. But remember last week I was scared to put my mouth in the water. And this is what you hear from the kids from there, day 1 to day 2. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I jumped in the water and grabbed the wall. And it's so awesome to see that. And I wish more people got to see that in the community, because they would understand why this is so important to have in the community.
So I'm going to bring this up because I posted what Sean's question was, which was the 5:10 event. Has that been we have not discussed that, but can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so that's going to be the May Day Drowning Expo, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Aquatic Center. We're going to have the police department, fire department, Coast Guard, Kiwanis Club, Suncoast Credit Union, our staff available that day. The entire leadership team will be on site for that day to once again talk to people, give tours, sign them up for swimming lessons. It's just an all-around fun event. It is free for Northport residents, and if you don't live in Northport, that's fine. You'll just pay the admission to, come into the Aquatic Center, but you still have the opportunity to interact with all those vendor groups. Fire department normally brings out their fire truck. The police department, you can go inside the police vehicle. Their Coast Guard, this year they're bringing their tent, and they're going to have different items there. The Coast Guard Auxiliary is an amazing group of individuals based right there by Marina Park. But it's just a really good event. We're gonna have some lifeguard demonstrations and things like that, so people can kind of get a feeling and a flow of how things go at the Aquatic Center, and as well as what resources they can sign up for, whether it be swimming lessons or water aerobics classes or whatever it may be. They can get just a little taste of everything.
So I'm gonna say this too, because I taught my boys to swim on my own, and then I took them to the YMCA where I learned to swim, and they went through the processes there. They both swim, and they do it prolifically. There's also something to be said when talking to whoever helps at the Aquatic Center with the kids, because we're not talking, 10-year-olds. Some 10-year-olds are starting out at that point, but a lot of kids that we're getting here also start when they're infants. Yep. And that hands-on in the water. Can you talk about the importance of engaging the water side of it early?
Yeah. So we start swimming lessons as young as 6 months old, and people go, 6 months? Yes. And you're exactly right. It's getting them into the water, getting the feeling of water. When I took a certification program, it was something like 11 million different things are going on in their brain at once. So the feeling, the smells, they're trying to get all these items there. And a lot of people, they put their infants in the water and they start crying and they immediately want to take them out. It's just, they're processing it. That's all they know how to do at that stage. Eat, sleep, cry, eat, sleep, cry, and maybe use the bathroom in between there. So it's important at that age you get used to the water going down their face, and you get their little arms moving and their legs moving. We're not asking for proficient swim skills at that age, but we want to get that feeling going. When they're 3 is the first time with mommy, daddy, grandma, grandpa that they do not go in the water with mommy, daddy, grandma, and grandpa. That's another milestone. So you get kids at the side of the pool, and I always tell parents, let them sit on the side. They're going to cry. They might not want to engage. What's going to happen is, and we all know from having kids, if you don't acknowledge the negative behaviors and you continue on with their kids are naturally curious. So they want to go do what all the other kids are doing. So what we see is, maybe that class, they're sitting down, but they're still watching. They're kind of doing one of these things in their eyes, kind of watching, but they don't want to make that they're engaged in it. The next day they show up in the program, they got their feet in the water, they're kicking, they're moving, and all those items. Then the next milestone is age 6. That's when we get into the Learn to Swim program. This is where we're really starting to refine, and that starts at 6 years old. We're really starting to refine what swimming strokes look like. So not saying your kid can't swim before 6, but when we start talking about those fine motor skills that we're really looking for, the different strokes, we start that at age 6. So we're going to cover the front crawl first. Then we're going to go to the breaststroke, and then we're going to go to backstroke, and then we're going to go to side stroke, and then it ends up at butterfly and all those items there. So it's it just builds upon itself as we go through there. And you're exactly right. We start at 6 months. Most of our kids that we see are within that 4 to 6 range that come to us for swimming classes. And then they continue to progress. At no point in time will an instructor ever tell you that your kid is 100% safe in the water and they're good to go. Even at the aquatic center, if my lifeguards are swimming their laps for their monthly physical, they still have a lifeguard watching them in the pool. So we always want to have somebody else watching us, because you never know what could happen there in the water. But absolutely, that day as well, on May 10th, we're going to have staff available to do swim assessments with parents, so we can tell you where we would put your child in what swim level. And then we'll have a computer set up to get you signed up for swimming class. Last year, when we ran this event, I registered 35 people for swimming lessons just off of one day, which, once again, for us, yes, it's awesome that the city has a revenue stream, but it's also more important for us that the mission to get kids water safety education and getting people safe in the water. So, Northport does not end up on the news for something tragic.
Right. Everything that you've talked about has got positive. I'm not going to say positive outcomes, because anything can happen at any moment in the water. But the way that you started with talking about prevention is still integrated with all these conversations of prevention, and thinking forward, but not panicking over the thought of thinking forward. Talk about the parent that staff has to deal with, that may have that fear of, oh my gosh, I know my kid's by itself in the pool. I'm panicking right now because they're not going to swim.
Yeah. So in regards to swimming lessons, what we want to make sure is our kids are watching us, all the time, and they're watching how our emotions are under control. They're watching our body language. We're like the ADT alarm system for them, if you say that there. So it's important that as parents, we have to take our personal feelings about water. And there's a lot of parents out there that never learned how to swim. But we got to understand, like you were saying, is look forward to the future for our kids and what is more important. So when we're out there on the pool deck, it's important that those parents become what I call supportive parents. So, we're going to, hey, Johnny, let's go back to the swimming lesson. Okay. Hey, Johnny, let's go back. Let's just sit down on the pool deck. And that's one thing that when we're training all of our water safety instructors, and in the state of Florida, by the way, just so everybody knows, you have to be a certified swim instructor in order to teach swimming in the state of Florida. That is by the law. Is when we're teaching them, the first piece of teaching a swimming lesson is building trust. If you don't build trust, you can't go anywhere else from there. So we will never in a swim class say, hey, Johnny, jump to me, and then move out the way. We're never going to say, hey, we're going to catch you, and not catch you. We're never going to say, hey, Mr. Devon is holding you on your belly there, and then not hold you there. So it's important to build that trust. I will say, and we've been teaching lessons since 2019. Honestly, out of the thousands of kids we've had, there's probably been maybe 5. And they've all been exactly what you said. It's been an energy shift from the parent to the child. And we sometimes have to ask that parent, ma'am, in the swimming class, if you could just please go sit in that chair that's all the way in the back, please, and maybe go a little bit further away from the side of the pool. And it's amazing how the difference that goes there, because that child's going to constantly be looking for the parent. And it's like, no, look at Mr. Devon. Mr. Devon's here with you. Let's kick their legs there. And it's just working through with the kids. Listen, we all have bad days. We all have bad Mondays. Kids are allowed to have them too during swim class. And I tell the parents as well, sometimes kids just aren't having it, and we work through those and we move on there. But the important piece is that getting them there, getting them engaged in the group class. It's amazing how other kids feel comfortable around other kids, so as they're sitting there and they're watching them do that, they want to do it.
And I want to add something on for the parents, is that as you listen to all this and you share all these things, understand the level of comfortability that you're going to have in trusting your kid to the instructors. That is the critical part that is there for a parent. You've already talked about the critical part for the swimmer at any age,
Yep.
to gain that trust. This is a moment in time where I love it, because not every parent is as fearful of the water. Maybe there's a parent that's had to deal with a water situation in the past, or a grandparent who did. That doesn't mean it has to continue. It just means that you
Correct.
have to handle things differently. And by setting the standard at one level and then upping the game, that
Yep.
is essentially what you guys are doing by analyzing every part of prevention
Yep.
and great outcome at the end.
Absolutely. Yep. Break the cycle. Like we call
Yep.
it the,
So
the non-swimming cycle.
you're gonna laugh, but I've only got about 2 minutes left. I think we
Yep.
did a good job clarifying all those things. So do you want to hit this piece that I have up there about Northport Aquatic Center?
Yeah, so this is our fees. So if you do notice, we do have resident and non-resident fees. So if you are a resident of Northport, the fees are cheaper to get in. So if you're looking at that, a child is 8 versus a non-resident child is 13 there. And we have passes, which are very reasonable. Those are all year round passes there. We also have facility rentals. Just don't ask to rent during the month of May, because we are booked, which is a great thing to see. Is once again, this facility, we are booked from May 12th all the way through May 30th. I don't have one free date of a rental. We have school groups coming in. It's a phenomenal item there. We also do offer group rates as well down at the bottom for both resident and non-resident. So if you're bringing in a party larger than 15 there you'll get that the rate, so it's a reduced rate from the regular admission there. So a lot of good things happening. We got the covered party space available, and then these fees down at the bottom. A lot of people always ask, why do you have effective the date? As we work off our fiscal year, so these fees could be updated. They always get updated during budget. Sometimes they stay the same, sometimes they don't, but then those go into effect every October 1st.
Fantastic. And the last one I have up, I'm going to go over a minute, maybe.
Yep.
But go ahead and talk
Snack
about
Shack menu. So this is our menu. So our facility, we do ask that no outside food or drink gets brought in. We do understand that people may not want to eat the food that we've provided. So what we've done is we've provided 4 picnic tables out in a covered grass area with trees over it, that if you want to bring a picnic lunch, go right on ahead. It just can't come into the facility there. But we got all different kinds of options there. And then, of course, our most popular is the meal deal, is a hot dog or a slice of pizza, chips, and then a water, juice, or soda for $7 there. But our concession stand is very popular. People love it there. Just all around good time.
All right. So I appreciate your time. Tell Jason I said thank you for being part of it from afar. How about that?
Will do. Exactly. I'll let him know.
Devon, thank you so much. Real quick, though, any kudos you want to send out to any staff members at this point?
Yeah, kudos once again to the entire aquatics division. It's been phenomenal. I will say the Warm Mineral Springs team of my division out there has been phenomenal. It's been a tough 2 years with taking that facility back over, staffing it, getting it up there, but the numbers are incredible, John. And I think that goes to their teamwork out there. And then the team at the Aquatic Center, kudos to a very successful spring break and a very successful April there. So good job, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Devon. Thanks so much. And this is John Rawlings with Real Talk. Thanks for listening to the live stream. Please share this content. If you don't do anything else, get the kids around, watch the first 38 minutes, and then have a discussion, because truthfully, they know where the concession stand is. Give them a couple bucks and let them go have a good time. But really talk about the drowning month, talk about the safety, talk about everything that was discussed here, because it is truly essential if you're near water. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.